Janet?
Get it?
Well, when I went to draft it, I opened it up.
Okay, we're good to go.
Call the meeting to order. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Adopt the agenda.
I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda.
All in favor of adopting the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Consent agenda.
So moved. I said so moved.
We need a second.
We need a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Alright. The open forum for anybody wishing to speak on anything that's not on the agenda. You have anybody, you got 2 minutes. Alright. Moving on to old business. Old business, the audit thing. So, what's his name?
Lane.
Lane, we're ready for you. I'm gonna turn you around so everybody can see you.
Perfect. Let me close my door here quick.
What page is it gonna be on? Well, if you
And then I will share my screen. And hopefully everyone will at least be able to follow along a little bit. But thanks for having me. So, like was mentioned, my name is Lane with Aldo. We'll be going through the 2024 financial statement audit. So we put together the summary presentation. It's really going to be a high-level overview. We're not going to go through the audit report in a ton of detail. Try to keep it in as layman's terms as much as possible. But if any council members have questions, feel free to ask at any time. Janet, if you have anything to add, feel free to add anything in there as we go through.
Okay.
Everyone, can everybody hear me and follow along okay?
Yep.
Great. Alright, so like I said, we'll go through our audit results, we'll discuss some of the required communication that we have through auditing standards with those charged with governance. We'll primarily look at your general fund, some of your other governmental funds, your special revenue capital projects that you have going on, your enterprise funds, and then also compare you to some key performance indicators, how you can benchmark to other cities in your area, and also other cities your size of the state. So the first thing that we are going to discuss is the audit results, what a financial statement audit is, what it isn't. So a lot of times people hear that the auditors are coming in, that they're looking for fraud, they're looking for wrongdoing. That's not the case of a financial statement audit. We're really engaged to look at the numbers, make sure that they are free from significant errors. So in accounting terms, we provide reasonable assurance that the financial statements are free from material misstatement. So we can't look at every single transaction that the entity entered into during the year. So we use a lot of sampling, we use a lot of our judgment, kind of dictate on what areas we want to look into more, look into less. So that's why we provide that reasonable assurance that, again, the financial statements are fairly presented, that there are no significant errors. So that's the objective of a financial statement audit, is to opine on that. And so with that, we give a clean or an unmodified opinion on the financial statements, which is good. But ultimately, the financial statements do fall back on the city council, those charged with governance through acceptance of the audit report. We also are required to look at other areas of legal compliance at both the state and the federal level. You did not meet the threshold for a federal single audit this year, which is $750,000, which requires some additional audit work. But we are required to look at areas of the state legal compliance. We have one instance of non-compliance to note, which has been there the last few years. The state auditor dictates guides us on where they want us to focus our efforts in that, so, we spend a lot of our time on where they want to have us look at. Okay? So we have 5 findings to report, the same findings that you had in the past few years. So the first one is from an independent standpoint, we as auditors assist in putting together the financial statements, the required disclosures to go along with that. So we report that as an internal control finding, very common in a city of your size. Also common in a city your size, limited segregation of duties, basically just saying that there's overlapping controls, mainly that Aaron handles a lot of different functions within the city. And from a cost benefit standpoint, the city is willing to accept that risk just due to, again, the small office size and the cost it would take to add additional people to perform additional controls. So again, very common in a city of your size, we have that for both the city and the swim center. So one thing that we do like to reiterate as the city council, just be diligent in looking through the reports that you get on a monthly basis and look through anything that may seem odd, stand out, look at bank statements, bank reconciliation, check registers, those sorts of things as another additional level of control. We have also in their material audit adjustments, basically saying that in order to get the financial statements in conformity with generally accepted accounting principles, we have to make some year-end adjustments to get that into place. Again, very common in a city of your size. And then as we mentioned, the one compliance finding that we had outstanding checks. So if there are any checks that the city issues that are over 3 years, or outstanding for over 3 years, the state wants the city to remit them as to the state as part of their process, and they'll hold on to it as part of the unclaimed property at the state level. So again, same findings had in prior years with the exception of the liquor store, which was removed because it was sold. But any questions on the findings or the financial statement audit? Okay. One other thing that we have is an auditor recommendation that doesn't merit a finding, just something that we came through that the city has historically used transfers as part of the budgeting process and cash flowing. It would make life a lot easier if you went away from the transfers and especially in the budget process to streamline that and just end up receiving things in there, budget things, budget revenues and expenditures in the fund that they're intended to be in rather than transferring them in and out. We'll go through that a little bit and look at it in the general fund, but again, one thing that we noticed would help make things a little bit more efficient as part of the budgeting and financial reporting process. Okay. So next we'll move on to look at your general fund. So it's going to be the primary operating fund of the city. So really what we want to focus our attention to these next few slides is the orange line in any of the orange data over the next few slides here. So in this case, this is going to be your unassigned fund balance, which is dollars that are available for spending at the city's discretion in the general fund. And we're going to compare that to the percentage of your budget. So really it's a measure of liquidity, and what you want to see is your yellow line, your budget expenditures increase, that you want to see your increase in the orange to offset that. So you can see that is happening. So about 5 years ago, your budget in the general fund was about 1.65 billion. That has creeped up to about 2.2. A lot of inflationary pressures, different initiatives that the city has taken on. Again, pretty common just in the nature of the environment. But as those expenditures have been increasing, your unassigned fund balance has been increasing too. So we as auditors recommend about 50% of fund balance as a recommended reserve. League of Minnesota Cities recommends something similar, 35 to 50%. You don't have a formal fund balance policy, but as you can see here, with some of those additional dollars that have came in, you're right about that 50% in 2021 that has gone up to about 82% in 2024. So we can drill down a little bit more specifically on 2024 and look at the year's activity. So anticipated about $1.5 million in revenues, final budget, anticipated about 1.7 in expenditures, and then you have your transfers in and out, as we mentioned earlier, to cash flow some of these different operations. So overall, you have about a 10,000 increase in fund balances. So if that were zero, that would mean you had a balanced budget. you did anticipate, it was more or less a balanced budget, you anticipate a little bit of an increase from 1.66 million to about 1.67. So you actually increased fund balances by about 113,000. So if we look at the top, the revenues, about $18,000 to the good. Most of the areas came in pretty close to budget. Your investment earnings, just due to the higher interest rates, is the primary driver of that. That's about $35,000 higher than what was anticipated. But overall, again, came within about $18,000 overall in comparison to the budget limits. Your expenditures also had a positive budget variance of about 42,000. So a few reasons for that. Part of this transfers is just capital needs and one-off things. So anytime, again, part of streamlining the budget process would, if you eliminate those from the general fund and move it towards some of those specific dedicated funds that we'll look at here shortly, you can get rid of some of that and keep the general fund truly operational. But that's not anything that needs to be solved today by any means. But part of those expenditures being under budget were due to one-time purchases that didn't occur out of the general fund related to those capital items. So that was about $90,000 of that. Revenues and expenditures for the recycling utility that's housed in the general fund was about break even, was a little bit under budget for both revenues and expenditures. And then offsetting some of those positive variances was those downtown fire cleanup costs. Which ended up being about $100,000 in 2024. So that was partially offset by some deed revenue too in the general fund. But overall, again, you anticipated about a balanced budget, but because of those factors, actually saw fund balances increase about 113,000 up to about 1.8 million. So again, if we look at how it compares to your budgeted expenditures, ends up being right about 83%. Okay. Questions on that, or Jana, do you have anything that you want to point out specifically for 2024?
Was the interest on one of those accounts, is that from the, I'm assuming the 4M account?
I would guess either the 4M account or primarily the sweep investments that they have as part of that sweep account. So
And you said, did you say
the
that one,
4M,
did that go up 35,000?
so it's gonna be, so it was $35,000 higher than what was anticipated. If I look at, and I do have the financial statements open on your screen, if we look at how much investment earnings you had overall, the city had about $160,000 total in investment earnings in 2024. It just happened to be, majority of that was budgeted, just 35,000 wasn't. Okay. Alright, so if we look at the general fund revenues by type, your taxes and intergovernmental, that's gonna be your primary driver of your general fund revenues. So you can see here, the city does have a big footprint of those transfers where most entities don't. So this is gonna provide a lot of variability just depending on the needs of some of the other utilities and some of the other initiatives, again, that the city has going on. So something to look at as you move forward is to eliminating some of those. But overall, your tax levy has been pretty steady, right about that 500,000 in the general fund only. And you can see here for your intergovernmental, that you did see an increase in 2023 related to those deed dollars, see about $250,000 from the downtown fire in 2023, about another $100,000 in 2024. So that's the drop off there. Another one of the things with intergovernmental, police aid, there's been some other small cities, public safety aid that's come in, again, some one-off dollars from both the state and feds. But the taxes and intergovernmental are going to be a primary revenue source. So typically, as you see this yellow line continue to increase, if you want to continue to balance your budget, it's going to come with an increase in the tax levy. Okay. Same thing from the expenditures, overall by type. Not a whole lot of change year over year, pretty consistent. Again, a lot of increase in costs just due to various inflationary pressures. Public safety jumped up in 2023 and 2024. Again, a lot of that's just due to the disbanding of the police department, contracting through the county. Public works also increased a little bit in 2024. A lot of that's just related to staffing, personnel services, costs are up about $35,000 there. Otherwise, as we mentioned earlier, capital outlay, reason for that budget variance to decrease a little bit, just depending on the needs. Everything else ended up being pretty consistent. Okay. So switch gears a little bit, we'll look at your special revenue funds. So these are gonna be funds that are specifically dedicated to a specific purpose. And I'm not gonna go through every one of them. I'll just point out the high level ones that we have here. So you do have 3 TIF districts that are out there. TIFs 1-3 and 1-4 are continuing to generate some increment. So those deficits are starting to go down as the tax increments come in. You also have about $250,000 total in the EDA and revolving loan funds to be spent on that. Now, not all of that is cash, it's split about 50-50 in loans outstanding, so you actually have about $125,000 in cash to loan out there. But it's nice to have that flexibility in those 2 funds. And then your libraries are the biggest change in 2024. You're continuing to levy about $103,000 and transfer it over from the general fund. So the library is continuing to build reserves, pretty consistent with what we've seen in years past, where it's continuing to build up. So if we look at your overall fund balances in your special revenue funds, they increased about $60,000. Again, a lot of that was the library, and you can see the overall trend in these different, in the different funds that we have here continuing to build upwards. Same thing with your capital project funds, so again, dedicated to a specific purpose. Similar to the special revenue funds, continuing to see increases in some of these various balances. So the one thing that I will point out, the biggest change here, again, not gonna go through everyone, is the First Street construction project was completed. So the spend down of those during 2024 and then closing those funds out, that's gonna be the biggest change. So that was about $460,000, and that made the biggest chunk up of the decrease of that 1.15 to the 766 here. But the other funds have continuing to see increases in the reserves, specifically the fire equipment fund and the vehicle replacement fund are continuing to increase, mainly being funded by other functions, other utilities. Each of those funds have $50,000 in those funds to be spent for those specific purposes. And again, as you know, something to consider as you go through the budget process is if you do have those capital needs, is to pay it out of these specific capital project funds rather than running through the general fund. It just keeps that more operational. We'll simplify things quite a bit. And the last of your funds that you have with the governmental funds are your debt service funds. So you have annual obligations of about right around $200,000, and you have about $485,000 in cash in there, plus another 50 or so in assessments to be collected to pay off the future debt. So the 2020 bond, part of that is maturing in 2026. So you're going to see your debt service drop off by about $100,000. So if you're looking to take on additional projects, issue additional bonds, in order to keep some of that levy more steady, that would be an opportunity to issue bonds somewhere in that time frame, and you won't see those big levy spikes out there to cash flow it, and can continue to keep this more consistent if you take on that additional debt. Any questions on the governmental funds before we go to the enterprise funds?
I got a question. If I'm understanding this correctly, are you kind of saying that we should not bond until 2026 for special projects?
So it's not saying you can't bond, it's just saying that if you want to layer your bonds or layer your levy when some is dropping off and then taking it on, rather than taking on new levy, that would be the time to do it. So if you wanted to bond in 2025, say, and start payments in 2026, there's nothing wrong with that. That's just, from a tax levy standpoint, you're gonna have to increase your levy to make those first bond payments, where if you push that back off a year, you'd be doing that when your existing debt is dropping off. So it's really just gonna make that, in order having that timing difference of the big levy increase in the 1 year versus when it's dropping off in the second year, it's easier from a levy standpoint to keep rates more flat.
Okay.
But obviously is dependent on needs, and Mike Bubani probably has that in mind and builds that into part of some of the financial planning that he does as well. So, if you're working with him too, he can assist in that endeavor.
Okay.
Alright. So you have 3 enterprise funds now that the liquor store is no longer under the city's umbrella. So the first one we're gonna start with is the water fund. And again, we wanna focus on the orange and look at the top graph first. And that is going to indicate your cash receipts coming in versus your cash disbursements going out in the yellow and the black. So really what you wanna see is the orange and the top exceed the yellow and the black. So your operating costs, your payroll costs, your supplies, any of those recurring things that you have in there, plus the debt payments to make some of the improvement projects. So as you can see in 2021, you're basically a break even. Now there has been some rate increases, and you can see that the orange bar is continuing to increase, while your costs have been pretty consistent right around that $250,000. So if you look at the actual cash balances in the bottom graph, you can see with those rate increases, how those cash reserves have continuing to build up. Where it was pretty steady in 2021 and 2022, where you weren't having a big lot of operating income, whereas that is expanding here in 23 and 24, you're continuing to build those cash reserves. So our recommendation is to be about 50% of the yellow plus the entire amount of the black up top. That's gonna be the dollars available for those operating and the debt. So one way to think about it too, and that's gonna be on this target balance here down below, is that anything below this black bar is gonna be your operational, anything above it in the orange is gonna be available for future capital needs. So if you have improvement projects that you have going on, ability, whether it's water treatment, it just gives you a little bit more flexibility. Maybe you don't have to bond as much, or you don't have to bond at all if it's a piece of equipment purchase. You can draw that down rather than having to issue debt for it. Same thing for the sewer fund, pretty similar overall. It has been cash flowing a little bit better, but costs have been increasing a little bit more too. So you can see that the operating income has been jumping or getting closer to the orange up top, and that's really kept your cash balances pretty stagnant in the sewer fund. But overall, you're still basically right at where we would recommend for target cash balance. You do have a little bit of an anomaly in 2023. If you recall, that 2023 street project did have some water and some sewer too. So part of that's a spend down of those proceeds. You have about $200,000 in costs that were spent down on that. So really, if you factor that out, it would be pretty straight across as that project does get completed. So anytime that we have utility enterprise functions, I always recommend continuing to review rates, make sure that they're enough to cash flow the operations and debt payments, and lay out those capital needs as much as you can over the next 5-10 years. Again, just helps with rate stabilization, figuring out when you need to purchase something and what you need to purchase and when. Okay. Electric utility, this is truly operational in nature, so there's no debt in there. So you're only gonna have your operating revenues and your operating costs. So again, overall, you see an increase from 21 to 2023. That did drop a little bit in 2024. Again, you did increase rates, but there were also some utility customers that left that impacted those cash collections. But overall, you're continuing to generate positive cash flows, as you can see here, by about $400,000 a year. Electric utility does transfer out a lot of cash to other funds, like to cash with some of the vehicle replacement purchases and some of the general fund things like that. But overall, you can see that the balances are continuing to increase. So the electric utility had about $822,000 in cash at the end of 2024, compared to about the $500,000 where we would recommend. So if we look at the city overall as a whole, you ended the year with about $5.5 million in cash. So that actually decreased about $100,000 from the year prior. However, you had about $600,000 of unspent bond proceeds in that the time, when the bonds were issued versus when the project was completed. So really, you have to take $600,000 out of 2023. And then you could see that with that, you'd see a continued increase from where you were at in 2022 at the 4.2. So positive growth, mainly in the general fund, and then also in the enterprise funds with some of those rate increases, continuing to build some of those reserves again for either rate stabilization, future capital needs, things like that. All right, any questions on? All right, last thing I have to go through, we're gonna compare you to, again, some benchmarks on tax rates and where your expenditures are at. So again, I'm not gonna go through every single one of these, but we will look at where your tax rate is at. And this is gonna be, City of Spring Grove is gonna be in orange. And we're also gonna compare you to other cities in Houston County, which is gonna be the yellow bars. And then other cities your size throughout the state, which is any city under 2,500 in population, which is gonna be black. So overall, if you look at your tax rate, and unfortunately, since the state hasn't released all the data for 2023, it's a couple of years behind, but still somewhat relevant, again, on how you benchmark to your peers. So your tax rate was right about 92% in 2021. You've seen that decrease year over year to about 70% in 2024. So you're a little bit higher than some of your peers in Houston County. From a tax rate standpoint, you're lower than other cities throughout the state, but as far as taxes per capita, you basically overlap on both of them. So really just that indicates that your taxes are pretty much right in line with other cities in your area and other cities throughout the state that are your size and population. Long-term debt, I'm not gonna spend a whole lot of time on this. We did talk about, that new bond issue in 2023, so you did see your debt drop up or jump up. And then also your current expenditures and your capital expenditures. So you're a little bit higher than some of your peers on the current expenditures per capita. One thing that I do want to note is that just because you're higher doesn't mean it's a bad thing. Every city offers different operations, like not every city has a swim center, right? So it's gonna cause some additional costs, but also some additional charges for services. So I really like to look at the trends, and you can see that overall, pretty much right in line with how other cities are trending. Once we do get the 2023 and the 2024 data, I would imagine that you're gonna see a similar trend in the yellow and the black as well. Just again, given the various challenges, inflationary pressures that entities are facing. Capital expenditures, again, you saw some increase in 2023 and 2024, mainly related to that First Street Southwest project. But again, that's really gonna be depending on the needs of the city. And again, I want to reiterate, the more that you can lay those out and anticipate those, it is gonna help keep rates steady, keep tax levy steady, and really avoid some of those different spikes year over year in both of those. So with that is all I had to go through. So I know it's a lot to digest in a half an hour, but are there any questions, anything that needs clarification that you have for me?
I have a question, Lane. I know that the
Yeah.
areas that have been pointed out of concern that we gotta look at, same thing pretty much every year. Is there anything else that's close to being something that we should be paying attention to? That isn't an area of concern, but could be?
You know, I would say the biggest thing to look at is, again, those, you've mentioned it a couple times, but the capital needs and laying those out in the next 5 years. What projects are needed, what streets need to be redone? Is there water treatment plant renovations that need to be done, wastewater, are you in compliance there? What sort of equipment needs are out there? Is it a snowplow? Is it a street sweeper? Again, the more that you can lay those out and say, all right, well, our snowplow needs to be replaced, but I think we can get another 2 years out of it. That'll allow us to replace our street sweeper next year, which we don't think that we're gonna get another 2 years out of. And how are you gonna pay for it? is it gonna come out of reserves, is the utility funds gonna pay for it, and then just the more that you can lay those out, that, and structure that, it just makes life a lot easier, rather than saying, oh, we have a $250,000 expenditure that we need to do because our truck broke down and it's gonna cost $100,000 to fix it. You know, how is that gonna be funded, how is that gonna be paid for? Just again, more that you can anticipate that would be my main takeaway.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Alright. Well, if not, I'll let you get back to it. My contact information is on the last slide. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out. I'd be happy to answer them as they come up.
Perfect, thank you.
Alright, thanks everyone, appreciate it.
Have a good night.
Yes, thank you as well.
So what did he say our nerding was on the forum fund?
It was less than 35 or 36.
Just under.
But he says from the sweeping accounts, which that's the sweeping account. Those are other ones.
I'm just curious, I just forum fund last year, that's why I was curious.
I can't remember how much he said it was, but it wasn't the full amount.
You said
There was a bigger return than we were anticipating.
Yeah, he said it was 35,000 was.
We were talking maybe 7,000.
Yeah, and they,
But we've had it stuck in there a little bit longer than I think we thought it was gonna be too, which is,
Well, like last summer, we threw it in there hoping for a quick turnaround and then boom.
yeah, so that's kind of.
Then we still got some in there yet, I think, too, right? It's
I
not
have a
big.
question. I'm with the Caledonia Argus. What is Lane's last name?
Clockerman.
Clockman?
K
You got it?
Lockerman, I believe.
I
Alright,
think I need to be closer to it.
K-L-O-C-K.
here, just a second, I'll try to find it back here for you.
I was wondering the same thing. So you're not
I gotta
alone.
try to get. Alright, gotta blow this up quick, just a second. Oh, K-O-C-K-E-L-M-A-N.
K-O-C-K.
Aquaman. K-O-C-K.
Thank you.
I'll leave it to the paper, I won't worry about it. Let's see, it's a journal.
do we need approval on that, or
I think we
or a
do.
motion on it?
I think we do every year.
Do we have a motion to approve the financial
To
report?
accept the financial report.
I have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Alright, on to childcare. It's been a roller coaster of a month.
Yeah. I don't even know where you're gonna begin.
People backed out, people became more interested, that's the summary of that, but one thing that we did come up with, or came out with, is there is a company out there that specializes in telling you what's going to work and what's not going to work with your childcare. And they're very focused on, like, we had a meeting with him yesterday, just to figure out what it was all about. He can come in and tell you, your building's overbuilt, you only need room for 50 spots, you need room for 60 spots. He can come in and do the study and tell you what the community can support for tuition on childcare, It's, yeah, and he can put numbers together and tell you what the lack of childcare is doing to your community, what the overall effect is. In his exact words, and why I think the best thing I think he said yesterday was he doesn't like fluff numbers. He's gonna give us the truth, whether we like it or not. Like, and then after that, the second part is he can come in, if we get somebody that is interested, he would be able to tell them, set them up a business plan of how they would have to make it work, what they could pay in rent, what their employees would have to make, and all of that. I mean, it's, like I told him yesterday, I said, everything he's saying is what I've been thinking the whole time, but he's not a bulldozer operator and he can put it on paper and put numbers together, so it's actually a usable diagram to go off of, so.
So I imagine he charges for this, so where does that come out of to pay for that?
Well, we just had the meeting yesterday and that's EDA, because it would be great blueprints for somebody to take to a bank and say that this is what we wanna do and here's our business plan and why it's going to work. So technically, we're bringing a business to town if we had this study done. So,
It'll also help determine too, like, it hasn't been voted on yet, if the city's gonna be one about purchasing that building or not. At least this way, you can have some hard numbers to look at, where you can be like, oh no, like, this isn't gonna work for us. But you also have that information put together for somebody else to put together a business plan for themselves. So it's kind of a twofold, it's kind of for us to look at and make a decision on, if that's a route we wanna continue to go, and it's also information for a new business owner, like he made the comment, let's say you only need half that building to run a daycare center, but we have options that you can rent this and this out to the school, or you can rent this out for kids with disabilities that have like speech therapy or whatever, where they come in, and he said there's a lot of different options, that you can get different businesses in there. So, and he said those are all, or let's say, one option he said was if there's an in-home daycare that doesn't wanna work out of their home anymore, they can possibly rent one area, so it could be like 3 daycares in one building,
yeah,
technically.
Right, so it sounds like there'd be a lot of different scenarios, I mean, it's privately business, it's owned by the city, it's
Mhm.
rented out. I
and
mean, so he's coming up with all these different numbers for all these
Yeah,
different,
yeah,
Options.
essentially, like I've dug through that website all over, their actual website, and they've worked everywhere. I mean, he said
South
they just,
Carolina.
yeah, he was in South Carolina next to Ashton, that's where their next job is out of. They're out of, Mapleton,
yeah,
out by the cities, right?
yep.
so what do we need to vote for him to go ahead and do this, or what's the
Well, we
route
don't-
we're taking
We
here?
don't know, if you guys wanted to vote to go ahead and look into the study or have it done, we don't know yet where the funds are coming from. Because if we were gonna ask the EDA, that's not until next month.
That's the EDA thing then too.
And then also, there's other options possibly from the county, they may be able to assist.
I'm trying to get it paid for.
Yeah,
It's,
So-
we don't want it to come right out of the EDA, the Spring Grove EDA fund, but there are grants available that I'm trying to secure through the county.
so there's things that are being looked into, we just don't know which road it would be coming from.
So what do we vote to move forward with it, or what,
Or just more information.
Yeah.
Just more informational
Really
than
not
anything,
us.
just letting the community know that we're not spending money, but we're still looking at things. I mean, transparency is what I'm kinda going for on that end, so.
Okay.
And I think the first part's 2,500 and the second part is 1,500.
And we don't have to do the second part
Yeah.
if we don't, but I think if we get to a point where these numbers are beneficial, that second part's gonna help put somebody in there with a business too, so.
And also did get verbal commitment from another township that once we get something, if we can get something laid out, like an actual plan, they're interested in helping too, so. I don't know that exact number, but two townships are 25,000 and then, so that's 50, and then I got 30 from two business owners in town,
And
so.
10,000 plus from Houston County.
Yeah. So there's people willing, it's not all gonna fall just on the city, no matter if we do or don't do it, but it's just. So. Any more questions or discussion on that? Moving on to the ambulance liaison.
So the city, our liaisons for the city are for city functions. And the ambulance is not one. I think the confusion is there's always been a council member on it, but, it's not a requirement. So,
Well, it's the Karen's on it for 30 years.
right, yeah,
It's
so.
been on council for
I think that's
75
where the
years.
confusion came from, but our liaisons are for our own departments, and we're not part of the ambulance, so we need to,
I'll make a motion to rescind the ambulance liaison.
okay.
So we're not doing it?
No, it's not her.
Oh.
Is there?
Well, I thought they asked that they would like to have somebody.
Yeah, that's the next one.
Okay.
Is there- We're rescinding the liaison, but if anybody here would like to be on the board.
Okay.
But
Sorry.
you don't have to, 'cause it's not a requirement,
You're full, man.
Okay.
but they are asking,
Okay.
if anybody's interested, we have an open position.
Do I have a second on Trent's motion?
Yeah, Morgan.
Morgan. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Alright, moving on to new business. Open position on the library, or on the ambulance. Jesus. Is anybody interested in doing it?
Thought you volunteered.
How many meetings is it a month?
One.
One meeting a month?
I mean, I think you get on this, I think you're gonna be there for a few years.
Is it at the Legion?
I don't know what's at the office.
It's right over here, in this, over yonder.
Yeah.
If they move them to the Legion, that's.
Sometimes.
I'm
they
gonna
are
vote, I'm
waste.
gonna put you in the spot since you put me in the since the last one.
I'll do it, whatever.
You say, I don't think it's gonna be a one-year thing, it's gonna be,
It's like volunteering, basically.
it's a term, isn't it?
Isn't,
Oh, for that, yeah.
Yeah, for this position, it's a term, it's not,
I don't know how long it is, you're gonna have to call and talk to him about it.
it's not like a one-year deal, you might be like, on for like 10 years and then
Well,
maybe
I mean, how
two.
long has Todd been in?
Todd's been on because he's part of the
Township.
township,
Yeah, I
so
know,
he's,
and Todd Pasek too, I mean, they've been on for
Oh, yeah, 'cause
forever,
it's township down in Iowa.
yeah.
You'll do fine, you'll get along great with all them guys.
Slick's retired.
I'm busy. Every day.
Yeah, I'll
I can't
consider
jump
it, I
with
guess. Yeah,
I'll get more information for you.
okay. Moving on to Trinity Church application rebate form.
We just need approval from council. They're not considered a commercial business, they're a church, but they're also not a residential. And residential, I can make the decisions on that, so this one kind of falls in between, so I brought it here for you guys to approve it.
Is there okay on it?
Mm-hmm.
It's
Did
just,
it meet the commercial requirements, or
Mhm.
it
Yep.
did?
But it's just not,
So which one are they going for? Are we going to ask, like in between, or what do we?
no, it's going for the,
I'm trying to find it here, Jan, I'm just having.
is it just like a reimbursement for being more energy efficient?
yep,
Yeah.
Yeah, then I think that's,
Oh, there it is.
Fine. yeah,
Make a motion to approve it. I don't know.
That was for the, their heat pump and stuff, right?
mm-hmm.
I second it.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. No parking in front of the Trinity Center, June 1st to August 15th, school construction. Are they,
We talked about this last month with the fencing, and then we were gonna possibly input the no parking on the Trinity Center side, so people could still make that turn, but we never approved it last month.
they aren't going for the Connexes though, are they?
No, that's why
denied that.
Yeah.
we're saying no parking, no putting anything on that side. so
Just
we
to try and
have
keep
that
the street
usable.
more
Yeah,
open.
wider.
Make a motion to approve it.
Second,
Any discussion?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Whoops.
All opposed, same sign. Alright.
Looks in a hurry.
Yep.
Let's go through these.
Spring Grove forward memo.
That's information for you guys, they just wanted to share with us what they're working on, what their future plans are, and also, we had that meeting up at the Fest building, they didn't want us to forget about things that they've been working on in the past, so they just set that out for you all to get.
That's just FYI.
Yep.
Alright, nothing needs to be done there.
No,
Proposal Star Energy Cost and Service Study. This is the thing Kent was talking about?
yes, that we're gonna split with other cities
Yeah.
for a cost of service study, to see if our chargers are in line with where they should be, if they need to go, if they can go down, if they need to go up.
Is that,
We have to do
$9,000, is that the cost, or?
It is, we'd be splitting that with other communities, if we don't do it now and have the opportunity to split it, it's like $25,000. And we're kinda due for it.
Well, he said, when I talked to him, that they recommend a study every 3 to 5 years, and they can't find one for us, and his records go back 25 years. Or something like, yeah, it was,
This is some kind of a company.
yeah, from My Energy, yeah.
So how many cities do we split this with, or?
I don't remember, I would like to say it's with Caledonia and Naval, but I don't know if there's other cities that,
so the 9,000 is our
Our
portion
portion.
of it?
Our portion.
Oh, that's just our portion.
Yeah. I think it's something that we should definitely do. Is it something we got put in the budget for next year, or can we do it now out of some kind of
Not
fund?
electrical fund.
Out of electrical fund?
is that a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Do the study, pull the funds out of electrical.
Any discussion on that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Spring Grove Sheriff, Houston County Sheriff's quarterly report, or whatever.
They just
Yeah.
shared their numbers with us,
When was the dog in town?
which dog?
It says they had one canine. Who got bit? In the report.
I don't know. They don't tell me who, or, they don't give me everything, but,
It just sounds like a fun day.
so the total for first quarter in 2025 is 199
You remember now. I
incidents.
just said I thought who it was. I thought maybe you forgot.
Total citations 13, total arrests 0, which is great. Deputy working in Spring Grove took 176 calls. There's only 23 calls that were responded to when they weren't on duty. And again, if you ever want Sheriff Swedberg to come here and go over any of this with you, he's more than willing to come, but I had him come for a year straight and nobody ever asked him any questions. So I just said, just give it to me, I'll put it in the bag, if they have any questions, we'll call you. Or have him show up next month.
Alright. We approve that or just move on? Poet grant submitted by Jana, Spring Grove Fire.
Yeah, that was for Nomex hoods. We should be hearing back on that pretty soon. That's just an FYI.
Okay. galvanized steel pipe.
So Tim Herska, he found a grant for us to apply for to replace 3 galvanized steel water pipes. Cause remember we did that one thing, we sent letters out telling people if they had lead pipes, steel pipes, or we don't know. And we do know that there's 3 galvanized steel pipes, and each one was like $9,000 a piece to change it out, and he got a grant to do those 3 galvanized ones. So, or we're applying for a grant, which he said we have pretty good odds of getting it, so it's basically just letting you know, he applied for a grant to try and get those 3 fixed, and just waiting to hear back.
We had a question on some of these grants.
Yeah.
So when we apply for these grants, like, not that any of these are big ones, but say disc golf.
Yep.
We get $10,000 and we spent, was it Rebecca that wrote that?
Mm-hmm.
And she spent 5 hours writing that grant. When we get the money, can we take, say $50 an hour times 5 hours and take it out of there and say it's an administration grant or administration fee?
No, cause that's not part of it.
One time we were getting our money back when we got the AFG grant back in 17. We paid $1,500 for that grant writer.
Yeah.
Means we got awarded, they gave us that $1,500 extra back to pay for the grant writer.
I was just thinking like the downtown, we've got
Yeah.
thousands of dollars, but can we ever reimburse ourselves for the time put into
No.
all that money that we
Like
got?
today, I looked into 5 different grants today and spent an hour and a half on it, maybe, but, and then if I start applying for them, like, we'll just, we just hope that you get it, and
Yeah.
if not, you,
Yep.
you learned on how to do it.
Better.
Yeah,
How to do
so
it
you,
better.
so you can do it better next time, so you don't waste your time.
Alright, moving on to Taylor Family Grant, disc golf park.
So
Course.
we were awarded $10,000 for a new disc golf course down at Trollscogan, and,
He left.
he left. Mitch is on our Parks and Recs group, and he is a huge disc golf player. And these are popping up all over in Minnesota. They're starting to be pretty popular. And $10,000 is gonna put the new tee pads in, the new baskets in. He's got a whole new course all drawn up for us to use, and we did have to have a match on that. And our match is gonna be our employees' time putting the stuff in. So it's no money, it's just our utility guys'
I mean,
time.
there is time, I mean, we got
Yeah.
wages, but.
Yeah,
Alright, tier 2 housing grant application.
you wanna talk about that one, Jamie?
Yeah, I mean, I know a little bit about it, you guys. There's more that I'm learning. Basically, what I know is that this was specifically applied for with direction from the EDA as a possible program that the EDA would, if awarded, this was for $500,000 for housing development. So if awarded, the EDA would create basically a local program to create affordable housing. And we could potentially do that with a couple different locations that are already being looked at for lot sales. So there are a lot of specifics that are not known until you're awarded. So I can't go into like full detail about it until if we get any sort of award, but basically the EDA would then set up program guidelines and how to work with developers to create that specific affordable housing, and then what those requirements look like for those families, so income requirements. You would use some of that funding towards infrastructure for that entire housing development, but your entire development would not have to contain all affordable housing. You would just have to put aside at least one lot for that. And you would just work with a developer at that point to make sure that it's built within those parameters of being quote unquote affordable. again, that's kind of the gist of it. It was applied for just knowing that Spring Grove needs more affordable housing options. It can also be used towards rentals, so you can develop or build a rental unit with that funding as well.
Okay,
Again, just an FYI of what it is, and
Yeah.
we'll know more if we get awarded.
recommended hires for summer rec.
You got one right before that.
Yeah.
Oh, National Endowment for the Grant.
That was for our downtown rebuild, and we just got an email saying that they revamped their mission, and it no longer aligns with that, so they're
Taking the money back.
declining it, I should say.
Whatever. Recommended hires for summer rec.
Make a motion to approve them.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
I,
Opposed? Okay. Utilities Director John Silling wants to sell the 06, move it to an auction.
Sometimes we do a bidding process, but this truck has not been a very good truck for quite some time.
Oh, yeah, nobody wants that one.
So he'd rather put it in an auction, put all the receipts in the vehicle and let somebody make their own decision.
Do we do min bid on that, or where do we take, or do we have
We go anywhere.
Oh.
But I think he was talking about,
Zinkies or?
No, farther away.
Be the best bet.
I can't remember what he said, but he just said that he doesn't want to sell to anybody, he knows. And, he said, I will put all the information in there so they can see exactly what we've been fixing on
They have
this.
the government sales sites.
That's what min bid is. That's where like
Oh,
Houston counties,
And it doesn't
everything
have to
from
be on
Houston
government.
County goes to min bid, which I
Right,
was just asking if that's the site or what.
Oh, okay.
but he just wants to not do the bidding process, but put it in the auction.
I'm fine with that.
I'll make a motion to let them do it.
Second.
Sell it, send it to Georgia.
Hopefully.
So yeah, motion and a second on that, right? You said? Alright, all in favor, or do we have discussion? All in favor, say aye.
I,
All opposed? Alright, sell it.
Okay,
TV series, I'm gonna let you guide on,
oh, yeah,
this
so.
one's you.
So, I forget his name, Andy Folds put in application for the city of Spring Grove for this TV show, and they accepted it. And so, they said that they would like to come down, it's called My Town. It was just on YouTube, but now it's actually, a TV channel just picked them up, and it streams all over the world. But anyways, long story short, they go to small towns and they show what small towns have to offer. Like, they might go to the Giants, they might go to the Pop Factory and do videos, and this guy, he's a 3-time Emmy Award winner guy. If you look him up, you find his name, Corey Apola. But anyways, they said that Spring Grove is locked in as the premiere for 2026, and with that, we would be in all of their advertising, going all the way up to it. They say it's a huge component for our economic development, because it's showcasing Spring Grove and all the great things we have to offer, where people might see it and might wanna move here or build their business here. And on the flip side, it's just to show how cute our small town is too. But, with all of that, it's a $36,000 bill to pay for the production and everything. They've already given a grant for 14,000.
We don't have it
Alright.
yet, but they've told us we would
Yeah.
qualify for $14,000 worth in grants
Oh, so
through
we gotta
their,
pay for this?
yeah.
That's the kicker on it. It sounds really
It
cool.
sounds really cool, then we gotta pay for it, I don't know how.
Crack that line.
could it be my chance to be a movie star or what? Discover?
Well, let's pay for it. I make a motion to pay for it.
I have not, the part of this is you create basically a board that works with their production team. And that board is gonna get together and decide like what are the top key areas that they want them to focus on.
Slick Hagen.
And so let's just say, for example, if the Giants were one, First Norwegian Settlement in Minnesota, if that were to be one, it could be something that, and you can't promise, they said, because it's up to the board to decide who's gonna be on this. So let's say the fitness center donates $10,000 to this, but we're not on the movie, that's how it goes. Like, it's just, if you fundraise,
Long and short, it's a chance of possibly drawing people to this town though.
that's,
How long
that's
is
the
this
With
show?
the
rate.
advertising.
It's like
of
a,
it.
with ads, it's like 15 minutes, or is it like?
It's a half hour,
25 minutes.
yeah, it's a half hour show.
25-minute episode.
I watched it and I actually enjoyed it, I really did.
I think it's a great, be awesome to have, but I don't think it's a expense that maybe the city is looking to take on. Maybe could the EDA fundraise something? I mean, it's,
Or is
or
it,
is
ask
it, could the
businesses to help
Giants
out
do
with
it
some
for
of
it?
it, means it's more advertising, or?
So that's kind of
Or how do we do
it. The reason why I'm bringing it here is there's already people willing to drive fundraisers for this. They're willing to go talk with people in the community and try and fundraise it. My question here tonight is this something you want me working on through the city? Because if it's not, then I'm gonna have to pass it on to them to do their fundraising.
Oh, yeah, I see how you're pointing over.
Well, she was been in my
Nope,
meetings.
the-
I've
nope,
actually kinda
the-
kept her out of it, 'cause I
The
said-
EDA is not interested at
No.
this time.
and
Yeah.
I've also said she's busy, so we're trying to keep her, she's trying to learn her job.
So would the chamber wanna drive this?
I highly doubt it.
So who wants to do the fundraising?
Well, Andy Foltz and Stephanie Jaster said that she's already spoke with Buck Keys about doing a gun raffle, and
I'd say let them, whoever wants to do it, let them do it, boom. But the city stays clear of it, but we'll, give them our support.
Yeah, support their
Is
efforts.
that a motion?
Not financially.
Yeah, I motion that the city keeps their hands clear of.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay, zoning permits.
any questions on any of them?
Nope.
Okay.
Moving on to ordinance and policy. Solar ordinance.
Law Title 1109.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. This was brought up in our planning and zoning meeting. Some on the planning and zoning committee felt that we don't need ground mounts, cause they feel it doesn't look pretty in our town. And last year, we put that in our city ordinance to allow wall mounts, roof mounts, and ground mounts. So now they want me to bring it back and ask, do you want to allow just the sidewall mounts and the roof mounts? And not the ground mounts, or keep the same? Change it? Do you have anything you wanna add? I'm assuming that's probably why you're here.
How's the side work, what are these side, what we're talking about?
On the sidewall.
This is-
Kinda like what Marv's got on his garage down there, don't he have one? That's
Oh,
kind of a
yeah.
up and down vertical.
Oh, okay.
I didn't do that one.
I mean, you can't really ban a ground mount just because you don't think it looks decent. I mean, there's buildings in town that don't look decent.
I mean, I don't really like trying to tell people what they can and can't have as far as like in their yard, like.
Every situation's gonna be so different.
Yeah.
I think it needs to relate back to your setbacks and your rules of your
There
lines.
was one
lot
here
lines.
too that says it can't be seen from the road.
There's a
too.
really weird one if you read through here that, here it is. Visible from public right of way.
Yeah.
excluding alleys.
I mean, my buildings are all in the city, in the city district too, and I've got solar, and what if Lee wants to put solar in, you're banning it from ground mounts? And he's got.
We were talking more ground arrays and residential.
In residential areas. I personally wouldn't want my neighbor putting ground mounted. in
That was
his
mostly
backyard.
residential what we were talking about,
Okay,
you know, commercial, that wasn't a big thing, but it was just, say my neighbor, I don't want my neighbor putting a ground array in his backyard, that butts up to mine. You know what I mean, I think so, it's
there's
mostly
multiple
residential.
different types of arrays that you can build though, it doesn't have to be a big structure like mine is.
No, we were just talking ground arrays, I think, just so it
That's what I'm
wasn't in the
saying.
backyard.
I mean, there's different types of structures or different types of ways of mounting it, doesn't have to be 15 feet tall. It could be as tall as a fence, I mean, you can put up a picket fence behind it, if it's butts against your property, they can put, you know, you could define it and say, what's your setback, 15 feet?
Depending on where it's at.
So you just say, you know, if you do that, then you have to protect the view of your neighbor and put a fence up. You know, to limit someone from wanting to do green energy, that's a pretty bold step. If somebody does not have a roof line that would be, there's trees in the way, or it doesn't face south, or it just doesn't work for any roof mount solar, you just now limited them to say you can't have it.
Okay.
And I'm not here advocating solar one way or the other, it doesn't matter. to me.
Well, you're the one that's most knowledge on it, we don't have knowledge, so I'm glad you're here, but, you know, that was our big thing, was just, you know, you know, yeah, so this guy wants it, but his neighbor doesn't, well,
I mean, like for anything else we do in town, like if you get a chicken permit, you have to have your neighbor's approval. So it'd be
That sounds good.
probably something that like you sign off with your neighbors before you have to get a permit for it, cause you're building it in your backyard.
But that's every year too.
Even in the county, if you go apply for a variance for a solar to come closer to your lot line, you have to get all of your neighbors that touch your property's approval.
to sign off, yeah.
Right.
Well, anything countywide variance.
I mean, just, I would myself approach it step by step as a case by case, don't just ban it.
That would be, every situation's gonna be different, every house.
I mean, Berger wants to put solar in, but his south facing is in the back, you wouldn't even see it. And that's in the city area of residential. So it's different situations and different settings. Like, I know that, Hunzinger wants to build, he's not gonna do it now, but yeah, that would be a different situation, cause that is right there, everyone can see it, you got yards up next to the back of it, and it would be a structure.
Well, that's, I mean, that's what got brought up, was, you know, your backyard butts up, you know, and they face each other, well,
Correct.
you're in your backyard and all you see is a ground array, same like what you have, you know.
And I guess I thought they were all like 15 feet tall, I didn't know
They
that
don't
you could
have to
get,
be.
I didn't know you
There's-
could get shorter ones, you know?
That's just, that's a two-stack vertical, you can do horizontal, you can do.
So even in that kind of situation, then it could be put a
Have you
fence
seen that
up.
one heading down by the hill, heading towards the cross, that the vertical, it's got the wood burner next to it, just before you get on the hill? Those are horizontal stack 4 high, you can go horizontal stack 2 high. There's so many different options of mounting, you don't have to be that tall.
Okay.
So just to say it's on the ground, you can't have it, I just don't think that's right.
So I make a motion, we look
Maybe
at
we
each
should
case
Play with
separately
this a
and
little
make
bit
it,
more before we make it.
yeah, or
I think-
look at each case.
Yeah,
Change
'cause
of
I just wanna,
ordinance.
I wouldn't wanna be on planning and zoning and have to deal with every single one either.
Just a heads up too, something going through the Senate right now for the state of Minnesota. They're trying, it's probably gonna happen, I don't know what the date's gonna be, but June 1st is supposed to be the vote. Right now, in the state of Minnesota with the net metering laws, My Energy is the only exemption for municipalities, not-for-profits and co-ops, that they limit your production to your usage. You guys don't, because you're a municipality, and any other co-op in the entire state can't limit the production versus the consumption. June 1st, it is being lobbied right now to make that statewide, as you can only produce what you consume.
Okay.
It is in Iowa, it is in Minnesota, it's in Iowa, Wisconsin, all the surrounding states in the entire, all 50 states except
So
Minnesota.
it's just, you can only make what you.
Correct,
use.
so if somebody only uses 2,000 kilowatt hours, these systems are not gonna be very big.
Okay.
You know,
So it's coming out after June 1st, anything after, any existing structure right now is gonna be grandfathered in, but anything new beyond is gonna be.
Correct. Even like Kim's that we just put in, he's gonna be overproducing and selling back at retail because that's net metering law.
Mhm.
Moving forward, if this goes through the Senate, nobody can produce more than they consume, which will limit the sizes of the systems anyway.
So you know, Kim's though being that he's selling back, they have to cut it back somehow, or they just don't get paid for it, or what?
It'll be grandfathered.
It would be good, okay.
Same with our systems out at Viking.
Okay,
We were before the rule change, so we put in max size, so we do sell back at retail to My Energy.
yep,
Moving forward, December 2 years ago, you can only produce what you consume, and then you do not get paid for any overage. It carries forward as a credit for X amount of kilowatt hours per X amount of years, but then if you still go over that, they just take it.
oh, okay.
So the rules are
So
changing.
it doesn't make sense to oversize it then going forward?
Right now it does, but if it changes June 1st, there's no way that I could even sell a system and install it before June 1st as it sits right now, so
Okay.
honestly, I would sit and wait and see what happens.
Okay.
It may solve your problem before you even have to deal with it.
You know, it sounds like it's gonna, might work itself out, but if the state goes forward with it, it's gonna take care of a lot of our questions on our end anyway.
And smaller sizes, small houses, unless you've got a lot of cash sitting around, it doesn't cost effectively pan out. Return on investment on small solar doesn't pay. And if you're not getting paid back on any overage,
I mean, what do you,
it's just a feel
oh,
good.
yeah, well, what it costs you a month is gonna be how many, what's your ROI sucks at it, basically.
So I honestly feel this will feel itself out.
Okay. That's an answer I wanted to hear, actually.
I still don't know the ground thing, that's a tough one. I'd hate to be on the planning zone.
Well, like he's saying, any home that, you know, if they can't sell back, it's gonna be such a minute amount that we ain't gonna notice it.
Solar is so new for Spring Grove right now, and it's just,
It's a mess.
it's gonna change, and with the rules changing,
Mhm.
I think it's gonna be, a lot of people are just not gonna do it.
Like, we got solar at the farm and it works great there, it's on the big shed. And that was put in previous to the change, so Dad was, he actually, yeah, his rates are even different, where he sells, he buys it at a more expensive rate than he actually gets, and he sells it to him,
Is it-
but he gets cash, I think he gets checks.
So I get cash monthly.
Yeah,
But you get paid, if it was in the net metering law rules prior to 2 years ago,
yeah, and I think he was like 4 years ago that
he's
he
getting
put
paid
it.
retail for
Yeah.
whatever today's retail is, anything he over produces, he gets paid retail for.
I just, the only one thing that I don't, that, it's the weird, shall not be visible from public right of way, excluding alleys. Well, in my backyard, does that count the county road? Cause that would be a public right of way and you can, it's just such a, it's so unclean for us in zoning that we've gotta come up with something more black and white on what we wanna put in.
Zoning
In my
asked
opinion.
for us to do this?
Yeah, it was a long, lengthy discussion 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
You wanna go to a fun
Because
discussion
of,
Thursday, the county, it's gonna be real interesting.
Oh, really?
Mhm.
Is that when they decide Andy Allen's?
They're discussing, large solar, utility scale solar, and how to regulate the size, what they will and won't allow. I don't know if there's premonition of what they're talking about because of someone, I have no idea.
Well, I mean, isn't it going on the property over by the airport? Is that where they're still talking about having
I
it?
don't know anything about that.
Oh, okay.
I know that they're trying to limit the utility scale or the developer size solars, the megawatt or multiple acre, 15, 30, 40 acre systems.
Yeah.
That's the discussion of what they're trying to work through. I'm gonna go to it just because I wanna be involved in what they're talking about, because reading their notes, I don't really think they've been educated well on what they're doing. But I'm just gonna go and offer my 2 cents as well.
I know
did
there's
these
talk about it.
change?
Sorry.
Did these change all of a sudden? Because it used to be you couldn't build a solar farm.
The solar
without
farms,
an actual contract with.
yeah, it's now gone to, you have to contract with Dairyland. My Energy just washes their hands. They say, if you wanna do that, talk to Daryl and
I
get a
suppose
contract.
Daily's actually the energy producer.
Correct, they're the DNG.
My Energy's a,
They just buy.
wholesale buyer.
They buy from them and you buy from My
Yeah.
Energy, it's just, hands being fed. But when you contract large-scale solar with the DNG or Dairyland, you're getting paid 3.5 cents for what you're producing, so you have to build this sucker cheap. And you have to be big, otherwise you don't have the return on investment on it. It's crazy nickels and dimes and you make a penny, it's a lot. So why anybody would wanna go into that type of an agreement with Dairyland on a smaller scale, 50, 60, 70, 100 megawatts, yeah. Like you go towards, head west on 14, heading towards Mankato, you see those big sites. Those are big solar. That's, I think, what they're trying to limit here.
Okay.
The one over by Caledonia I heard was 18 acres.
And see, that's not big.
That's what they were talking about
Mm-hmm.
in one of the meetings over there that I was at. But
Yeah, that's not big. So we're looking at one for Meyer Farms for the dairy in Caledonia here. That would only be a 6-acre site, and that would wash their usage. That would be a zero net. So it all depends on what the customer's wanting to do and what they want to get out of it.
So, you were in that meeting then, the planning and zoning, when they wanted to?
We were talking about it.
And what,
Mostly it was just, the ground array was the big discussion. We didn't know, we always thought it was like what he's got out there by his shop where he got the posts and everything, and that's one thing we didn't wanna have to see in town was a big post.
Look at my solar at home. They only stand 6 feet off the ground. It spreads out a
But it's
little
something
more.
like you said, if it can be screened, like we make commercial businesses screen their garbage and all that,
Mhm.
where they puts up a fence, you can't see it, it hangs on the fence or something like that, it's just a matter of, we didn't wanna have, be a burden on your neighbors also.
this is a tough one, because every situation's different.
But like he's saying, if, after June 1st, if they do pass this or whatever,
If they dissolve the net metering laws, it's gonna change a lot.
it's gonna change a lot of things, so maybe it's just something we wait and see how it plays out. We only got a month to go. Not even.
Yeah, it's
Some
already
weeks
been.
and they're gonna make this
So
vote.
you were sitting on there, so you should make a motion to do.
I'll make a motion to wait till all this plays out and see how
It's in the house right now.
We don't have to motion if we're not changing
nothing.
anything.
We don't have to change
Table it
nothing.
till next
Right now, we're
month.
just tabling,
Yeah,
not
just
changing
table it.
anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, it's in the house right now. It's
In a
up
couple
for
weeks,
vote.
we're gonna be voting on it, so. See how it pans
Because I
out.
can see different situations, like if I wanted to put it on mine, my roof doesn't go the right direction. Then my neighbor's got big pine trees on part of it, I'd have to put it all the way up to the alley, or put it up.
And then you gotta meet the setbacks,
Now you're sitting
And I
setback.
wouldn't-
Like
I
he
just
said, you
wouldn't
won't be
do it
able-
because
which
it
you
would
might
be-
not be able to do it anyways.
I think a lot of
but you would be able to
situations
see
with
yours
the
from the
house.
street,
Right,
so
it's just.
Right there, it says you can't see from public right away, which is essentially the street. Or sidewalk.
Pretty, kind of almost eliminates all of them then.
Yep.
Yeah, so I think without stirring everybody up, just let it ride.
It was all right, so if that metering law goes away,
I think it'll solve itself, I do.
yeah, cause then can't sell it back, there's,
My backyard is perfect.
yeah, you got it fenced in too. You can hang on
But
the side of your fence and nobody will see it.
I don't have that nest egg over here to,
Put it there.
yeah. Well, and I don't want that,
I would
oh
My
my
motion
gosh.
is, let's just,
Giant tree right next to it.
let's just leave this, let it lay and see how it plays out. Thanks
I
for
got
getting
next
next
to
to
that
that.
behind
Yeah,
me.
Appreciate
thank
that.
you for coming.
Yeah, that's why I'm here.
so we're just moving on, or
Yep,
Yeah.
anybody wanna make a motion, or what?
we just did, just table and let it, there's no motion, just let it lay.
Alright.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Scott.
Sam. Salary employees,
I talked with John about this today and talked with the office ladies about it. And what has been going on for probably 30+ years is salaried employees, no matter how many hours you put in, anytime you take off work, you have to use PTO. And I didn't think that was fair because I put in overtime every week. And anytime I take off, I already have my hours in and I feel like I'm just handing my hours I earned back. But since this has been, what has been the precedent for the last 30+ years, if that's the way it should be, then we should memorialize it somehow, because we can't find it anywhere. And I'm fine leaving it the way it is, cause guess what, let's say I run out of PTO, I still get paid for 40 hours, cause I'm salaried.
I make a motion to leave it as it is.
Well, we
But I
have
feel like,
to,
I think we need a new, like, I was reading through this policy, Jana, and it's like, this is for hourly employees. And that's
Yes.
what it states, so I feel like we need to implement a different policy for salaried
Well,
employees specifically.
we mimic our employees.
Yeah. So
We
anything
get
we
whatever
do,
they get, we get, but it's not the same. So that's why I'm like, I'm just thinking, I talked to John today, both John and I are fine with just leaving it, but we need to put down how it's currently being done. So if the next administrator comes in and brings this up again, then we could look back and be like, this is how it's been done, this has been the precedent for how many years. And there's such a great area with salaried employees anyways.
So get it in writing that this is the way it's going.
That's what I'm saying, so I need somebody, I mean, if that's what you guys want, somebody to make the motion of
I'll do that.
salaried people, no matter how many hours you put in, anytime you take off, you gotta use PTO.
Yep. Sounds like a good plan. Get that all in writing, keep it as it is. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
So you just, you're salaried on a 40-hour week or
Yep.
like 50 hours?
There's no hours, I could put in 20 hours a week, you're still paying me for
Salary
40.
is no hours, you get
Well,
paid so
But
much
my
a
problem
year.
is I always put in overtime every week.
she's
And
getting
one
over
thing-
40 hours a week.
I was salaried at a 60-hour week, and that they paid my benefits off of 60 hours. You know, you put in 100 hours every week, you'd still.
We don't have a set.
60 hours.
The biggest thing is we don't have set hours for our salaried employees.
It's recommended for 40, so let's put it
It's
this way.
recommended for 40, but
This
it's
is
not.
the way I was looking at it, I could put 47 hours in this week, and if I took 2 hours off to take my dog to the vet or whatever, I had a scheduled appointment, I have to use 2 hours PTO, even though I have my hours worked in. But,
I was looking at it and I was, what if it's made that way so it's not abused, so you don't get somebody that works 4 10s and never is there on Friday.
but that's I'm talking about not coming in early, not taking my lunch, I'm talking about my scheduled hours,
Yeah.
like tonight, this is my scheduled hours that I work.
Yeah.
So like, it would be abused if you come in early at 7 in the morning so you can jet out early on Friday. That's not what I'm trying to do, I was like, if I have my set hours in, I still shouldn't have to use my PTO, but that's the way it's always been, and I'm fine with that, because the problem that I had was, I was trying to explain was, if I put 47 hours in, and I took a day off, I have to use 8 hours PTO. In my world, I should use 1 hour PTO. But, let's say I'm still salaried, and I put 20 hours in this week, I don't have to use any PTO, and you still gotta pay me for 40. So there's such a gray area,
So you need to start doing a time card?
I have time right
Does-
I'm just kidding.
But I'm just saying, I'm like, so then I don't have, I can just put 20 hours in and use no PTO, and you guys still have to pay me 40. I mean, I don't do that, but if you think about it, there's some pretty sketchy ways to go around this. So that's where John and I are like, John's been doing this
What
for
would you
30
be,
years.
excuse me for only putting in 20 hours?
But-
That's what I wanna know.
I would never get nothing done. The only thing I feel like I'm being robbed of is actually accruing my PTO hours up. And everybody else has the option, once you bank them up, you can cash it out. I'm giving half mine back, half the time. So it is what it is.
So what if we gave you a flex of,
No, let's just leave it.
okay.
That's what I'm asking for.
Alright, that's what you're asking.
That's so basic, 15 minutes.
Well, I'm just saying, it is causing some ruffled feathers everywhere, and I wanna be done with it. So I just figured, you know what, if I run out of PTO, cause I gave it all back, I'm still getting paid 40 hours. So, the only thing I'm out is if I were to ever bank it up and cash it out.
I see what you're saying.
I mean,
Yeah.
I get it too, because when you work 48 hours in a week, why do you have to take PTO? Like,
But,
I get
but I
it.
feel like in order to do that, we have to have a separate policy for a salaried employee.
yeah,
Because otherwise we run into if we put it into the hourly, same policy, then we,
If you guys wanna vote to put me hourly, let's do it.
Just a second before we go that.
Figure out
So we
something.
get back here and see what the wage scale is and where we're gonna put you first.
Well, anyways, I talked to John today, he said John himself has been doing this whole time he's been working here for the city. All the other employees before him have done the same thing, so I'm just saying, let's just leave it as is, but we need to memorialize it, so the next person who comes in doesn't come back asking the same.
I don't think it'd be
Oh,
fair
Let's
to ju-
memorialize, let's move on.
I
Yeah.
need
You
a
don't wanna
second.
change.
Right.
I need a second.
Second, or whoever.
All in favor?
Aye.
Alright,
All opposed?
That's what Jana wants. Aye. Only because she said that's what she wanted.
Alright.
Just gonna agree with her. Happy Jana, happy life.
That's right.
Chapter non-conforming structure plans only.
Yes.
So, the planning and zoning commission
Oh,
wants
yeah.
to address these old lots, like Eric, you have one, that little grassy area that you can't build on, you can't do anything with it. There's many of those within the city, most of them are bigger than yours, but, so if the house burns down, as of our ordinance sits right now, you can't do anything with those properties. Well, we have so many of them in town where not everything fits every scenario. So planning and zoning committee was wondering if I could work with Greg Sheber, I think he did this for Harmony, where they came up kind of with non-conforming structure ordinance that deals with the ones that don't fit every scenario that we have. So that way, if you have that lot, and if you wanna build something on it, you might be able to with this,
To do something with an outfit.
like, being able to bend it a little bit.
yeah, right now,
Basically, we talk about in the solar, a case by case, and there's so many properties in town that are case by case.
Our zoning is set up for a brand new house and a brand new lot.
Yep.
Where there's construction going on in town where we did one the other day or last week about the existing house is only 8 feet from the property line on each side. Well, our setback's 12. He just wanted to go with his building another 10 feet just to make it a room in the back, but it's still the same size. Well, technically, he's breaking the zoning, but he's still just
Extending it.
extending his
Lines.
house.
yeah,
It's not like he's extruding.
You're not
it
encroaching
to
the property
neighbors.
line,
Yeah,
is on the back where you actually have room,
yeah.
the deal was.
And with the way our zoning is set, it doesn't give any of our zoning flex on any of this. So,
I have two properties like that, one in my house and one at the shop,
yeah,
and the taxes on them are stupid.
Mm-hmm.
The one went up 300% on an unbuildable lot.
You need to make a trip for California to the courthouse.
sounds like you made a bad financial decision to buy it.
You heard?
Is that
Put a
broken
for
or
sale
bad?
sign on there.
That's adding salt, a little salt to the wound.
June 17th is the appeals meeting. You better go to
I
that.
don't wanna get into that conversation, that's bad,
So anyways, I just
but
need
lies, so
approval to do that.
So, yeah, I think have Greg look into it. And I think,
Let's try to put something in there.
yeah,
I
you just
need a
need permission to.
I make a
speak.
motion
Yep.
to proceed with working with Greg to
second.
amend the ordinances for non-conforming structures.
Okay, thank you.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Traffic. I wish Brownlee was here.
No, we don't even talk about it, it's perfect. He wrote it, it's,
Well, we
Did
did
you see
find,
what I was talking
we did find
about?
we
though?
did find a mistake
Like
in
when you
it.
look through, like it's
It refers back to
We're-
campers.
leaving this one,
You should
leaving
refer back
what
to
you,
trucks.
leaving the actual thing in,
Mhm.
but if you look at
I'm trying to find it here.
truck parking follows. It refers you back to 3A, which is talking about campers, when you should refer to A4,
Which
and
is
it
truck.
says meaning of truck following.
Yeah, it
Did you
says truck
fix that?
means any of the
Huh?
following.
Didn't you fix that?
No. Mm-mm. Well, I mean, I did today, I put it on there.
So let's, I make a motion, we go with what you did today. And after he reads it, Tuesday, we'll have to do it again.
No, it's
Well,
fine.
I would make the motion that we adopt the axle law and then fix the other mistake as long as it doesn't mess with pickups and trailers. Because the weird part about it on here is when you read the meaning of a truck,
Yeah.
8,000 pounds, well, my truck door tag is 6,000, but my truck is registered for 12,000. So if it's 8,000 pounds off a door tag, you couldn't park a 3/4 ton pickup on the street. But if it's what it's licensed to pull, that's different too, right? Yeah, so you wouldn't be able to park on the street for more than an hour. And that's what, I don't wanna change the ordinance and we do that.
So what's gotta be changed, that A to pound wise or what?
Like if you're one offline, I do. Where is it? I probably got it here. You were looking, which one, you were?
Well, I mean,
So
B
it says
takes
you-
kinda care of that, don't
So you
it?
sent me a bunch of stuff this morning at 6 o'clock to her coffee.
Overall length of more than 25 feet, pickup ain't no
Well,
longer
my
than
truck and
25
trailer is,
feet.
my flatbed
With the
trailer is
trailer,
24
right.
feet.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a truck, that's not saying anything about a trailer,
Actually,
two separate
and
entities.
actually, I have a pickup, not a truck, so it's a pickup is different. That's where we can argue that, is we have pickups.
Believe me, we gotta get this figured out because what you just came up with is exactly what somebody's gonna say to me when they come in.
I have a pickup,
Well,
not a truck.
technically, I have a pickup. That's not- So, like, however, we need to,
The
like,
definition of a truck is in there though.
we need
And
to,
that's why I questioned this before too.
we need to write it in
And not
crank.
a definition of a pickup.
Alright, so no truck, as identified in section 3A, shall park on any street, alleyway, residential, for more than 1 hour. Well, if you look back to 3A, it's talking about that. Should point you back here to A4, where it talks about the meaning of a truck is defined in these,
Yes, I'm over that, you're over that.
yeah. But I don't know if that's door tag or if that's license plate. My license plates say commercial,
Mine are non-commercial.
because I'm a 1 ton.
But 10,000 orders are not-
That's why I put the 2 axles in there.
Yeah. So I'm afraid if we do something, I don't know.
I don't like this one, straight up.
He said that would
He said about the chit.
eliminate you,
Cause we got 2 axles.
Yeah.
because
Right.
the older 2 axles would eliminate
Yeah.
you guys.
So do we wanna change it to send them? The first change is keep the axle thing in, and then change it to send you to A4 instead of A3.
Oh, the A3 is travel. Well, you know what, travel trailers parked out there on the street all the time either. There's been others, a 3 axle truck sitting in front of the neighbor's house has been sitting there for over a week.
I'm gonna be honest, when I signed up for this, defining what a goddamn pickup was not what I thought I was gonna have to do.
Well, I'm wondering, what's
So
all
this one here
this,
though, it's striking A3 here and going to A4.
what does
Yeah, that's
this
what
in
I'm talking
A,
about, the other changes.
masculine, feminine, neuter, what's all that stuff gotta say?
What are you reading?
Chapter 706.
I think you found a different page.
What the hell?
Look at this.
What are you on? You're not on traffic regulations.
The
We don't have any
the
neutering on
masculine shall include the feminine and neuter and vice versa. The term shall means mandatory and the term may means permissive. What's all that?
The hell did you, what's like, did
Oh,
you get on
Chapters.
this, like,
It's in definitions and interpretations under
Yes.
the very first lines.
Yeah, Seven,
The singular
chapter
shall include the
706.
plural, and the plural shall include the singular, the masculine shall include the feminine, and the neuter, and vice versa.
What does all that got to do with truck?
Why is that in a?
I wrote these up.
How did that get copied?
What the hell? Sorry, people watching this later.
Did you do
If you're reading what we're reading right now, that's kind of.
I wonder how long it's been like that.
Did someone put this in to see if city council actually read anything?
Yeah, right. I'm glad you know it wasn't just me here, it's like, is this only on my computer?
I would say, looking at chapter 706 and chapter 8, the first paragraph, we strike the singular shall include or whatever the hell he was all saying. And then from the singular to the permissive part, and then the following terms shall have definitions given to them.
That whole A should be gone.
I'll bring that back next month, 'cause
I think so.
Yeah.
I don't
There's
There's
know.
work
like
on
two
this.
sentences there that we have to like get rid of.
Is that even in on the,
it's gotta be.
This is on our city
This is
webpage
the
right now,
policy
if you look
that's
at
on the
it.
webpage.
I've read that ordinance 100 times.
That's right, I think this one,
It is.
this two sentences here should be just eliminated from this ordinance, this chapter.
We're gonna make CNN for a
The
living.
term shall be mandatory, the term may be.
We're making national news right now.
These two sentences here have to leave.
I'm guessing we were working on like an animal
I have no
ordinance
idea.
before this,
I
and
thought
it
you were
got
on the
right
one.
pasted into a new
How
one.
long has this been in the ordinance?
That's, I gotta go back and scope this up.
Well, it
Revised?
says it was
Let's-
revised in 2018.
No, February 20th,
And February
2024.
You should lose 5 PTO hours off that.
I think somebody was working on two different things here and at the same time.
You'll see, there's two sentences that need to be omitted from this chapter.
I will bring those back next month for approval, because I will go back and look it up in the computer and.
Sounds like artificial intelligence.
Well, you pulled it up, and sentences this on here, it's already in there, because I'm sure it's gotta be out there.
Oh my gosh, that's terrible.
I thought I was just
My
reading.
God.
Okay, so I have right now the motion Eric started with is to keep the axle wording in there. And then you guys were kinda going back and forth about the changing to A4
We
instead
had,
of
you
A3.
stricken A3,
I
I
made
think
it
we
A4.
should leave it out of it completely the way it
That's-
is.
I will second Eric's motion.
There you go, let's move on.
And then next month, bring back correct verbiage in chapter
I
706.
am so embarrassed that we have to adjust that. Oh my gosh.
Well, Goober, guess what, NPR's calling you again.
Yeah, thanks.
Oh.
How do you do to a truck?
That's like,
You're driving.
you parked there, you're gonna get neutered, that's right.
Bob Barker,
You
gotta
gotta take the truck lights off.
It's not a fight, you just get neutered if you park wrong in the spring ground.
Bob Barker, make sure you get your truck neutered. Commercial.
Alright,
Let's
do we have a vote for any discussion on that?
Are we
Motion
just,
is
this
second.
is just coming back next month, is that what we're doing?
I'm gonna bring the other
Just the
portion
verbiage part, right now we're
Yeah.
gonna approve the
We're approving
changes,
the
but
3-axle thing?
back. Yep,
the
Is that-
two axle.
Or, well,
And it
anything
was
greater than
second.
2-axle?
Yes, I made a second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Carries. Alright. Mayor council, meetings, topics. Anybody have any meeting stuff? We did a very long EDA meeting.
Parks or go ahead.
The EDA meeting, there was a breakdown of communication I'm gonna chalk it up to on a loan. And in that, it kind of brought up some questions on how, when we do loans, what information is given to the particular, to the person borrowing money. And I think we're gonna have to bring that back and actually get something in writing, like when you borrow money, we wanna know what they're told at the time of the meeting, or when they sign the paper, to make sure they know their payment periods and all of that, and I think we just wanna touch base on that. I brought up some timesheet stuff from CETA that I didn't agree with. And that went back and forth. They had 69 hours. I had 96 or something, or 125, depending on how you look at it. And they made one board member said, well, let's meet in the middle. My response to that was, we're a government entity, we're not just gonna meet in the middle, we actually need to go off a set of numbers. So they decided they would go with the 69 hours that they were short from Courtney's maternity leave. And they all voted me on that, I said no, but that's that, so. I feel like there's one more big thing we talked about.
I think there was, 'cause you were there the next morning, you said something. I
Yeah,
don't remember.
what was it? Oh, Jamie's our new person.
Is that the big thing?
That's one of the things.
Does everybody here know Jamie Longmire?
That's the big thing, Jamie.
This is Jamie Longmire, our new CETA person.
Hello.
I can find the minutes, I'll be able to find it.
She's been doing a great job. She's been diving in deep
I've heard that.
and
Jumping
doing a
and
lot
running.
of digging and a lot of question and asking.
I'm
and-
glad it's somebody local, too,
Yeah.
that's here in Springfield.
And we're making headway in a lot of stuff, a lot of projects that have been kind of stagnant a little bit. We're like just a few answers away from getting some things moving.
Grabbing the bull by the horns and getting it done.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Oh, that's the other thing, on these loans, we don't have. And did you find anything on like, have we ever put anything in there on like, at what point of not being paid do we do something, and then at what point do we do, have we found any of that, or has it never been discussed?
From what I can tell, and I'm gonna have a further discussion with Courtney about this, because from what I can tell, when a closing happens, basically, and when they are given the loan, that's when all of this is, it should be similar to when you close at a bank, you know, and this is your schedule for when you owe us your payments. I do think, I don't know this for sure, I do think that it is maybe looked at on a case-by-case basis. I don't think, I mean, there's also been a couple iffy circumstances in like the last maybe 5 years with other EDA loans, but I don't think this is the norm, so that's why it's kind of coming up now as a concern, as far as late payments. So it is something that I think we should put in writing with our loan application, and then we'll put it in the closing documents when that happens. What's been a little bit unfortunate the last, year or so is just a lack of transparency to the lender of what is actually required on many different levels. So I'm gonna be looking at kind of revamping the entire loan application. And I am the Greg referred to me as the loan officer in any instance where we do a closing. So we have to make sure that I am present at all closings for loans. So that is also something that will be happening from now on. Again, this hasn't been a major problem in the past, but in the last, year or so, it's just been a little up and down. So we're
Yeah.
working on clarifying all of that and putting it in writing, and Yep.
That's just the big thing, is just, we need, and a lot of us EDA, we're all pretty much new, like,
Yep.
there's
Yep.
not, like, Sean is gone, a lot of the people, so we don't personally know without Courtney there how it's been handled in the past. So we don't have a blueprint, so we're looking into finding something like that. So-
Having some more requirements too about, possibly even, I'm just throwing it out there, when you close on a loan, do we look at potentially requiring an ACH form, so that they're not late? It's just an option for discussion and making sure that moving forward, we don't get into a situation where somebody gets months and months behind and now we're trying to collect all that and get them caught up. And so again, just points of discussion to make sure that we are covered and we don't have any further
Issues.
issues and questionable loans.
Another one I brought up was insurance on the places that we give loans out to. They
Mhm.
should be providing proof of insurance.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That could also be based case by case type of thing, but especially with certain situations, we will be looking at requiring that at the time of closing.
As if we're the primary on a thing, there's no bank. Usually it's never been brought up because the bank would be the one that would require the insurance because they're primary holders, where situations have changed and now we're primaries without that paperwork, I guess is the best way to put it.
Greg said it's not necessarily something we have to
Required.
have or require, it would just be an extra layer of coverage that would ensure a little bit more, I feel better about this type of situation. Yeah.
Any other meetings or?
Parks, there was no meeting.
Planning and zoning, we kinda covered that one with the
Ordinances.
neutering stuff.
With solar.
It's solar.
And solar, I guess, yeah, don't forget that.
Why we didn't meet this month, so.
Motion to adjourn.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Right.